Okay, welcome back. You guys made it through the first lesson, and now we're going to get deeper into the patterns and how they are actually constructed. From institutional traders to retail traders like yourself who are just getting into harmonics, well, we have our own lingo and terminology surrounding these patterns. So what we are going to talk about today, and is a very important step into your harmonic trading, we have to know how to reference certain points of the pattern. So let's kind of like explore that a little bit. The first point in our pattern is the X point, okay? And this is, we'll just mark it here. This is your X point. It's just what we call the emotional drive that starts off a pattern, okay? And then further, we move down and we get to an A point after that down cycle completes. Okay, this will also be one of our target points when shorting, but we'll get into that a little later. So after the XA points created, we have what we call the XA leg. Okay, and this consists of this whole downward sort of movement in the pattern of price. Okay, after that, we travel north and we are going to get to what we call the B point. Okay, the B point's a lot like the heart of the pattern. Okay, it's going to be very important come later once this pattern, if it does complete, will be very important to your trading plan. Okay, and we'll get into that. After the B points retrace, which is essentially a retracement of the XA leg, and this is going to be a fib retracement, okay? We're going to make another downward movement, which is going to be quite small in comparison to the XA leg, but is a retracement of the AB leg, okay? And this point right here is going to be our C point. Once C is complete, price moves all the way up into our last leg, which is the most important, or one of the most important ones. And this is our D point. Okay, our D point is important because that's where we're actually going to place our trade. Okay, D has actually been completed once it hits right here. And D is still valid up until the very top of what we call the PRZ up here. Okay, so this is a range for your D point. Okay, once D point has been established, we can then determine if we want to short this pair because this is a bullish pattern. Now, price can start off with X, go down to A, all the way up to B, come down to C, and if it stops just above here, it might, like, this would definitely not be like your bearish butterfly. So we're not going, it's not a valid trading pattern, essentially. So you need to wait until D is completed for this harmonic pattern to be in place. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense for you. So we have our X point, our A point, our B point in the middle, then we have our C point, and finally we have our D point. And that's how we more or less label our harmonic patterns. Okay, and likewise on our bullish patterns, we're going to label these the exact same way. So our X point, which starts off the pattern, is right here. And the XA leg will then get formed. And we'll be making our A point right at the top of the pattern here. This is your A point. And then we'll be coming all the way back down for a retracement to the heart of the pattern, which is our B point. And then we'll be coming all the way back up on a retracement of the AB leg to our C point. pattern is almost complete, but not until we've reached our D point, which is right here. Okay. And that's our bullish pattern. So then we would expect price to go up from here. And before I talk to you about A being a target, our first target is going to be our B point, which would be about here. Our second one will be our C point, and our last one is going to be our A point. Okay, so that's how we'll be playing the harmonic pattern itself. There are different ways that you can take targets, and we'll get into that later on a different lesson. This is the textbook way of choosing your targets. Doesn't mean to say it's the right or wrong way to alter that at all, but that's something we'll get into later in a different lesson about targets. So that's essentially how you do label your X, A, B, C, and D points. And you have your XA leg, your AB leg, your BC leg, and then your CD leg. Your XA leg and your CD leg are the most important legs of the pattern because these are your emotional drives that are created by all of us humans. So that's the XA and the CD, and those are the most important. The B point, as I said before, it's kind of like the heart of the pattern. It's the most important part, meaning that when price does increase here, we're going to see some resistance at B, but if we can get past B, then the rest should be pretty clear sailing. So you want to make sure that you take some profits at B, and that you might move stops to break even at this point, because B will be your first resistance point, which will be pretty major. The rest, C and A, should be pretty easy, or a lot easier to reach once we breach B. So what you'll see is you'll see price come up to B. It will do one of these where you get like a bit of a retracement and then go north. Okay, so that's your X, A, B, C, and D labels, and you know all your legs, and you know all about B by now. So hopefully that will help assist you in your trading, and of course when communicating with other traders, you now know how to reference certain points of these patterns, which is extremely important.